cares about some meaningless win against the Charlotte Hornets? Let's go get Giannis, baby! As obviously the big story took place earlier today, which took another turn during the game, is Giannis after all the talk, right? So if you're unaware, Shams comes out with the report earlier in the day that Giannis, who, let's be honest. That's fun to say. Say that 3 times fast. We knew he wanted out in some way over the summer, right? Interested in moving on, and that felt like a Knicks-only time period. That he wanted to be a Knick, that he wanted to move on from his time in Milwaukee, wanted to be a Knick. The deal didn't work. He agreed to go back to the Bucks, but this has always kind of been a fluid situation with Giannis, whether it was going to be in season or after the year. You felt like Milwaukee, who hasn't played all that well, they've been miserable without him because he's had some injuries, and they've been 500 with him. And in the game against the Pistons tonight, after all this talk, after Shams put out the report that his agent and the Milwaukee Bucks have begun a talking process that could lead to him being moved, of course he goes out there and pulls his calf muscle in the game against the Pistons. Now, it doesn't feel like the worst. If you watch the clip, Giannis goes down as if it's really bad. But unfortunately for him and unfortunately for us, we have all become very familiar with what an Achilles injury looks like. And just watching him, I didn't get the sense that looked like an Achilles injury or anything too severe, but it's a strained calf, and we know those things can, A, be tricky and take forever, and B, lead to an Achilles injury and lead to worse injuries, as we saw with Kevin Durant back in his Golden State days, and just more recently here in New York with Aaron Rodgers, an early, summer camp calf strain led to that devastating Achilles injury in the first game of the season, 4 plays into his Jet career. So we know how dangerous the Achilles can be, but assuming Giannis is going to be okay and might miss just some time here, obviously the second that you hear Giannis is talking with Milwaukee about being moved, you go to the Knicks, right? Immediately. We pivot right to the Knicks, who are right there with, any other team in the sport, really, outside of maybe the Thunder, as a team that's right at the top of their conference. I know they aren't currently standing there, and Detroit's having one hell of a season. Cleveland's good, and blah, blah, blah. We know this. But with all the talent, with all the talk, the first time the heat for the Knicks, and going back to last summer, Giannis wanted to be here. But here's my thought on it as we get ready to just immediately figure out a way to get him here, and he's going to force his way. And to be fair, we are very common with that in the NBA. These players want to get traded. They want to get traded to where they want to get traded. And 9 times out of 10, that happens. But it feels like that's what it's going to take because, as I said, this did already happen in the summer. Like, there was an exclusive 2-week window where Giannis didn't want to just get traded. He wanted to become a New York Knick. And there was a 2-week window where they tried to work out a deal and couldn't. So I don't know what now would change other than Giannis officially putting his foot down and saying, I no longer want to be here. I'm not willing to listen. I don't care. And you're sending me to New York. Outside of that, all of the issues that kept this from happening during the summer are what's going to keep it from happening now. And we could try and figure out how it makes sense and what players you would need to keep here. And, obviously you're not going to include Brunson in the deal. You'd like not, and, it's probably going to have to include Cat. It's probably going to have to include OG Anunoby. Bridges technically can't even be traded till February with his contract that he just signed. So, if you could keep Bridges, if you could obviously keep Jalen Brunson, if you can keep Josh Hart, would you be willing to move the rest of the team and whatever first-round picks it would take? And it just feels like you'd have to get another team involved to get them enough picks. And as Shams reported, that was a 2-week window back in the summer where it was exclusively Knicks. But it feels like if Giannis is going to explore this route of wanting to be moved, it can't just be the Knicks. And he's going to open it up to other teams. And there are other teams, Miami is a name that, because Pat Riley's been able to do whatever he wants when it comes to superstar players, that is clearly going to be at the forefront of conversations about a possible ability. Anytime, I've already seen all the pictures of Giannis in a Lakers uniform. Anytime you want to talk about NBA and trades of superstars, the Lakers are going to be, for some reason. I don't know how that would be possible necessarily. But whatever the case may be, here's my issue. My issue is they tried this. And as Ian Begley even reported, I saw him just put out something for SNY. He does a great job covering the Knicks for SNY. What has changed on the Knicks side? Like, what has changed in the last few months that they would be willing to do more or have more to entice the Milwaukee Bucks on doing anything and making this trade? Like, I don't know if the two sides match up. Trading all those draft picks for Mikal Bridges, I don't know if these two sides match up. I don't know how you accomplish this. Yes, he's an incredible player. Yes, as long as I have him and Brunson, I'm willing to do almost anything, because those two players together, now they're both ball dominant, right, at their best. They would have to figure out a way to work the way they still haven't necessarily figured out a way to work with Karl Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson. But we all understand how much better Giannis is. He's a winner. He's a champion. You do whatever you can to bring that player to this team. There is no doubt about it. But I just don't know. Like, it feels like, well, he wants to trade. It's going to be to the Knicks. I don't know if I see it unless, and here's the bottom line. Does Giannis want to be a Knick this badly? Is that the only place he wants to go? Will he put the Milwaukee Bucks in that position where he says, I'm going to the New York Knicks, you figure it out? Which we have seen in the NBA, no doubt. And Brian Windhorst, who covers the NBA for ESPN, kind of said as much, that he believes if this is going to happen, that it's going to be Giannis dictating what he wants, and it's going to be up to the Milwaukee Bucks to get it done. So, I mean, that's really the question. Does Giannis want to put the Milwaukee Bucks in a position where they would have to hurt their team and their franchise by taking the worst deal or the best deal they could with a team they don't match up in with, a team that they would know, I mean, wouldn't be that hard to read the tea leaves, have all the leverage because Giannis doesn't want to go anywhere else? Like, would he do that to the Milwaukee Bucks? And then would the Milwaukee Bucks reciprocate? And if he wants out that badly of a team that's clearly not going anywhere, a team that's clearly struggling, a team where it's, it feels like it's come to its natural conclusion, especially, if he leaves, obviously. But even now with this team, it doesn't feel like there's that other star there. It doesn't feel like there's an opportunity to really win. Again, I think they're one game over 500. I think they're 9-8 when he plays and 1-5 when he doesn't. So without him, they're terrible. With him, they're an average basketball team. And anything could happen in the postseason, typically not in the NBA. But it's not the crapshoot that baseball is. But here's the question. What are you willing to give up? To me, that's an easy one. Almost anything I can other than Brunson, I suppose. And you can't trade Bridges until February. And does it make sense? And is Giannis going to feel that strongly about being a Knick? And now, what does a calf injury do to it? How long is he out? And let's be honest, you don't want to rush him back. Not only are calf injuries tricky, but if you don't give them enough time, they could lead to the devastating injury that we have seen far, far, far too much. Far, far, far too much. So does this now open it up to the idea that you could trade Bridges in February and Giannis is going to have to wait because he's dealing with an injury? But, I mean, can you imagine, what are the odds? The world is a funny place, man. The news breaks today that he is going to really start amping up the talks with the Milwaukee Bucks to move him, and he goes down against the Pistons tonight. I mean, what are the odds of that? But here's, you do it. And that's why, we talked about the idea a couple weeks ago, maybe not even that long ago, about Anthony Davis and a trade that could possibly open up with the Dallas Mavericks. And to me, it's something you have to look at because there's no question, there's nothing left. And I know we got tired. I got tired. We all got tired of the idea of the Knicks star chasing, right? The Knicks waiting for that perfect perfect fit of a superstar, and for years getting spurned by superstar after superstar. It just felt like everybody comes here and loves talking about how great the building is, and it's the mecca of basketball, but they just want to come here and beat the crap out of the Knicks and then talk about how great the city and the building are, instead of actually joining it and being a part of winning here at the mecca. And I remember last year, Jokic coming in and getting their ass kicked, as the Knicks have played well against him and the Nuggets, and leaving talking about how good the Knicks are. And I remember, this is refreshing. It's nice to have the MVP come in, get his ass kicked, and talk about how great the team is and not how great the building is. So this Knicks team right now, it's come into the season with big expectations to be an NBA champion. And right now at 14-7, 11-1 at home, they're just still finding their way with a new coach and an offense that clearly works when it's working. We're still trying to figure out what happens on games that they don't have it, but they have now won 5 of 6. They're playing dynamite basketball at Madison Square Garden. And the question is, are they good enough to win an NBA championship? Are they good enough to take down, forget the rest of the East, obviously, because right now we saw that really hard-fought series against Detroit last year in the postseason, and as much as, Indiana is no longer a threat, obviously, and as much as now it feels like Milwaukee is no longer a threat, whether they have Giannis or not, Boston, even though they won and beat up the Knicks pretty good the other night, they're not really a threat anymore. Can they get through the East? Can they get through Cleveland? Can they get through Toronto, who they're now ahead of, who got off to a good start this year? Obviously. Can they get through the Pistons? I would think so, but the Pistons are definitely a good team. Orlando has given them trouble this year. There's some teams in the East that could still give them trouble, no doubt. But can they go beat this Thunder team that doesn't lose? That is a defending NBA champion that doesn't lose. What are they now? They have one loss, right? They are, the Thunder right now are 21-1. 21-1. Are you good enough to go attack the Thunder, the Lakers, the Rockets, the Nuggets? Are you good enough to do that right now with this team presently constituted? And that's why I'm open to an Anthony Davis trade, because I understand that he might get hurt, and I understand he can't stay healthy. But if I don't think Karl Anthony Towns is that kind of other superstar, and I know it's not the night to talk about it because he just dominated the Charlotte Hornets, doesn't matter, but he just had a great game. We have seen him time and time again struggle in big moments, struggle in big games, not be that guy you can rely on, get inside his own head, offensive fouls, all the stuff we always talk about. And plus just the idea that the dynamic of him and Brunson have not really been compatible on the court at the same time together just yet. That was part of the reason to bring Mike Brown in here. It's only been a couple months. Let's give them time to find that. But do you believe that those two superstars are good enough as a tandem to win an NBA championship and beat the Thunder and beat the teams in the West as well as get through the East? And if the answer to that isn't 100% yes, I believe that, then you have to be open to the idea of making these big-time moves. And obviously, Giannis is a different element where that's a no-brainer. He's clearly one of the best players in the NBA and arguably the best player in the East. So you bring him in if you can. There's no doubt about that. But even Anthony Davis, this roster right now, how comfortable are the Knicks that they can be an NBA champion? And even with Anthony Davis, it's a risk that he doesn't stay healthy. But if he's on the court, are they better? If he is healthy. And if the idea is winning an NBA championship and you don't think you can do that with Cat, then you got to take the risk. There's nothing else. We're no longer going to be happy with, 50, 52, 50 to 55 wins being the 1 or 2 seed and, losing in the Eastern Conference Finals. That's not, there's no more being, oh, wow, we're back in the Eastern Conference Finals. It's about one thing. It's about winning an NBA championship. So clearly Giannis would help in that endeavor. I think there are even other moves out there that the Knicks would have to be open to, but this Giannis thing, we'll see. He wanted it. He wanted to be a Knick in the summer, and still it didn't work. What has changed in his camp? What has changed in the Knick camp that makes you think that a deal could get done now other than Giannis is just fed up and he definitely wants to be a Knick. But now you get the added element in, I don't know how long before he's back and playing. Because he was on the floor for about, 2 minutes, and it felt like it was a significant non-contact right calf strain. And those can be tricky, and you don't want to rush back from them because they lead to the real significant injury. So it's kind of up in the air. But that was an interesting day, an interesting night for the NBA. The Knicks do get a win. But what should they do to move Giannis? What are you comfortable moving? And really, to me, the only thing that progresses this any further is if Giannis dictates he wants to be a Knick, and that's it. Otherwise, I don't know why this is any different than the 2 weeks they couldn't get a deal done. 888-808-1019. McMonagle here with you on the Fan. We'll get to the most depressing Wednesday night. Like, I was coaching my basketballs. I was coaching my son's basketball team. We had basketball practice. I'm running home because I knew I had to come in, prepare for the show. But I wanted to run home so I could watch Yankees Hot Stove. And I know it's a TV show, and I know answers aren't necessarily there, and I know it's just the opinion of two in the know, let's be fair, educated in the know reporters in Michael Kay and Jack Curry for the Yes Network. But I'm a baseball junkie. I'm a diehard Yankee fan. Those of you who are fans know that that's the case. So I rush home and I'm ready to turn on Yankee Hot Stove, and I want to hear what's going on with the thought process of the Knicks, with the Yankees, because we know I watch the Knick game, get ready for the Yankee Hot Stove, get an idea what Jack Curry, who we all believe as Yankee fans, is as tapped in as anyone into the Yankee thought process. And I proceeded to watch the most depressing 20 minutes opening segment I could have possibly imagined. It's just a show, and it's just a couple of opinions, and we don't know how much they know. And we'll get to it. But my God, Yankee Hot Stove ruined my night. Thanks a lot. 888-808-1019. McMonagle here with you on the Fan. Quick break. We'll get to your calls, and we'll take them all the way until 2 a.m. McMonagle here with you on the Fan. Be right back.